Hello, hello. You're listening to Archaeopolitics, a Harry Potter reread podcast focusing on politics in the wizarding world. As always, I am Adri, one of your hosts, and a recovering English major that, by the time you're listening to this, would have hopefully transitioned from dog mom to dog mom and human mom.
Yes. Oh my gosh. So soon.
So soon.
I'm Helene, your co-host producer, and just so excited for Adri's baby to come into the world. Look at her. So close.
So close. And also, like, so far, in a way, to me, I'm just like, I just feel so round and big.
Mm-hmm. Not for long. It's okay.
It's okay. And then I'll feel like panicked all the time. Like, is she breathing? You know, that kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah. I mean, of course, there's going to be the first time parenting scariness, but it's going to be great.
It's gonna happen. You know what else is great? This episode, because we will be talking about the entirety of HalfBlood Prince. I can't wait.
Yes. Just because we were just talking about it, listeners, yes, we are going to give Adri a little bit of maternity leave. So this might be the last episode for a little while, and we can probably touch on that later when we're about to close. But just warning.
Advanced warning: I will have a screeching human.
Yes.
So
I'm not
not very conducive to podcasting.
Yeah, I'm not going to force her to podcast when she just gave birth to a baby. So I'm not that kind of producer. Don't worry.
All right. Well, thank you, Helene.
You're welcome.
But we also have one item down here in this agenda that is not Potter related, and it is all Potter Watch related. So, Helene, take it away.
Well, we're recording this the day after the Oscars, and
by the time you're listening to this, it'll be old news.
Yes, it'll be a little old news for sure. But something happened at the Oscars yesterday. Will Smith smacked Chris Rock right across the face, and I thought we should talk about it.
And the incident just called the slap because it's iconic.
Yes, that's what I've seen it referred to on Twitter as, for sure.
Okay, so as we know, comedians often make fun of fellow celebrities at the Oscars, sometimes with their knowledge and consent, and sometimes without. This time it seems to have been without the knowledge and consent of such celebrity. He made a joke about Jada Pinkett Smith's bald-headed look at the Oscars. And she's been pretty like outspoken about her alopecia, which is the condition in which like women, men start losing their hair. And how painful it has been for her. Because she was, like a lot of women, she was very attached to her hair. So Chris Rock, producer of a documentary about Black women and hair and the significance of hair to Black women, chose that time to lobby an unscripted, like a joke that was not cleared by the couple, saying like, "Hey Jada, love you so much. Can't wait for G.I. Jane 2, referring to her bald head. One, like, that joke wouldn't have even slapped in the 90s when G.I. Jane came out,
Yeah.
Doesn't slap today either.
Nope.
And she rolled her eyes. Like, Will Smith is seen kind of laughing at first, kind of being a good, I guess, sport about it, in quotation marks. And then he saw how uncomfortable and, I guess,
hurt maybe?
He was.
Yeah.
And he just, in a split second, got out of his seat, went up to Chris Rock, and slapped him across the face. Sorry, guys.
Sorry, laughing at your alarm, not at the slap.
No,
yeah.
of course.
Yeah.
It was a very Batman and Robin slap.
Yeah. He just like marched right up, like so much conviction, and just, slapped him, walked away, and then yelled at Chris Rock to keep My wife's name out your fucking mouth.
twice.
Yeah.
And the coverage in the US like did not show that audio, but other coverage showed it.
Yeah, because ABC, or is it ABC or CBS? Whoever airs the Oscars, they air it on like
ABC
a, is it ABC?
on
Yeah,
a
on like
delay.
it's like a 5 or 10 second delay, so that they have the option to cut out any audio that they want to. And so yeah, they cut that out. Yeah, I mean, I've seen a lot of different takes on this today.
Oh, same here.
So
So
many different
it is
takes.
kind of like the you to me, this is what I have been seeing. Usually, like, woke white people on the internet are like, violence is never the answer. And I was like, did did I watch the same thing that everyone else watched? Because like I understand violence is like a spectrum, right? But they're talking about it like Will Smith just went up there and like shanked him,
Well,
like
a lot of people are referring to it as an assault. They're saying that he physically assaulted Chris Rock on live television.
which is like it does meet the legal definition,
Right.
but this is me. Maybe I've just watched too many telenovelas, where I'm like, dude, a slap is like a slap, not
Yeah, I mean,
like
he didn't, like, I mean,
beat him to the pulp.
yeah.
Like he wasn't like thrown off on his back.
Yeah, I mean,
Like
it was an open hand slap. It wasn't like a punch to the face. It didn't like knock him out or knock a tooth or anything like that. But at the same time, like, yeah, I mean, violence is violence either way. I think the question is, was it justified?
or maybe the question is, are you also including in the definition of violence words, because words can cause harm. And if your definition of violence is something that causes harm to someone else, well, I'm sorry, well, then words will also be there.
Yeah, I mean, I think, and you said this to me yesterday, like, comedians need to like start learning the difference between being funny and being mean, because the joke was just unneeded.
Also, it was like not even funny.
No.
I'm sorry, like there are mean jokes that are kind of funny, Like I will tell you that sometimes I'm like, oh, that's kind of mean, but kind of also clever and funny in the way that it's constructed. This was neither of the like it wasn't clever in the way it was constructed. It wasn't even topical. Like she wasn't even a nominee. Like it was just. It seemed to me like it was more of like low hanging fruit. I'm just going to zero in on you and make a joke about you. And it seems like also he has been doing this for a while to her. Like even in 2016, she made a joke on her behalf, like on her, like about her.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she was the butt of a joke. And like the thing for me with comedians is if you're going to like do self-deprecating jokes, great, because you're the target of that joke,
Right.
but like never make someone else the butt of the joke.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of comedians do this. It's usually in bad taste, especially at events like this. I didn't watch the Oscars live last night. I haven't watched it yet, but I can guarantee you Amy Schumer probably said some shitty stuff too. That she didn't get slapped in the face either. So,
well, like I said, some jokes are cleared and some are not.
Yeah.
And I believe that the joke that Amy Schumer said about Kirsten Dunst had been cleared.
I just meant in general.
Dunst.
I don't even know.
I don't saying, like, let's be clear.
Even know. I don't know what the jokes were. That's what I was saying. I didn't watch. I
don't
know.
I'm just saying, like, there's a difference between also, to me, right? Like, has this joke been cleared by the people? Then fine. If they said it's okay and then they had a problem with it, at least someone had permission to say that joke. But if you don't have the permission, then don't just like pick on someone randomly at the crowd and like come up with something because you think you're clever.
Yeah. I don't think Will Smith is like at fault really here. The only thing I'll say is I personally would have handled it differently, as I'm sure a lot of other people would have, just in the fact that like I probably would have confronted him after or if I wanted it to be public and like for everyone to know that what he had just said on national TV wasn't okay, I probably would have yelled at him from the seat, like, shut the fuck up, don't say that. Like, that wasn't funny. I don't know if I would have gone up to him and like physically attacked him.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I would have done the same thing he did, right? Maybe not.
Yeah.
We never, like, maybe we, the other part is we don't know how long this has been going on behind the scenes and in front of the scenes.
Yeah, we don't know
and
anything.
sometimes people are fed up and they just like are like, you're a bully, and the only way to show a bully that you're not afraid of them is sometimes to get physical. I mean, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I know that sounds insane, but like, words matter, and
yeah.
they
The only thing
deal
that
harm.
the thing that I don't really fully agree with, and the takes that I've seen are like, people have been saying like, oh well, Jaden and Will Smith have been, or Jada Pinkett Smith and Will Smith have been in the spotlight, and like have been famous for decades, and so like they should have a thick skin and they should be able to take a joke and they should just be able to.
They're just people like you and me too.
And
though,
I'm like,
right?
yeah, like I know people personally who said that. They're like, oh well, they should just be able to take that stuff. Like they have to deal with it their whole lives. And I'm like, yeah, but like they're humans, like he had a human moment.
Well, then we saw a lot of think pieces, like when Chadwick Boseman passed away from like the cancer that no one really kind of knew that he had, and they were like, "Oh no, we made fun of him, and we didn't know that he was going through something like medical or whatever, and now we feel so bad, and maybe this should be like a lesson for us all to learn not to make fun of people for their physical appearance." But here we are.
Yeah. Just don't make fun of people for their physical appearance. I mean, don't make jokes like that, comedians. Like, it's honestly that easy. Like, there are so many other, like, if you're a good comedian, you can make something that's not offensive funny. You can. It's possible.
Yeah, or there's crossing lines and or pushing boundaries, right? But then there's like, oh, I'm just gonna make a joke about a Black woman and her appearance. Haha, isn't it funny because I dunked on her? Which is like the lowest like bully shit you can do.
Yeah, no respect for his comedy chops in that moment, for sure. I will agree.
I mean, maybe this is the most relevant he's been in years, anyway.
That's possible.
And just because of the slap,
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, guys, we're going to move on to our main discussion, where we're going to discuss HalfBlood Prince as a whole, and we're going to go through some of just the things that stood out to us in these chapters that we just read, and the different politics that stood out to us, and we're just going to kind of reminisce a little bit on the last season of Accio Politics.
On the latest, not the last. Let's be clear.
Oh, sorry. I meant latest. No, we are going to be doing book 7. Don't you worry. I'm just gonna stop at book 6. That'd be so sad.
We'd be like, and we're trolling everyone. All right, so for me, like, these were the top 3. The Politics of Public Relations, episode 601. We see public relations so often in the series, and like how the ministry handles like all this kind of public relations in the wizarding world, and how they want Harry to be their star, forever. Because even in in book 4 and 5, and it's like, Harry is our star,
Yeah.
So that was episode 601. And then
the very first episode.
I know. And then I want to talk about the politics of school administration. That was episode 608. Because the way like that Dumbledore banned Horcruxes from being discussed in the series when he was headmaster, or even when other headmasters banned it, like those were decisions that were made for not only just the good of the kids, right? But it showed a lot of their politics. So like what has been banned and what has not been banned from teaching at Hogwarts is interesting, because then we have like schools like Durmstrang, which actually does not ban a lot of that.
I feel like this would also be very relevant to Order of the Phoenix more than HalfBlood Prince, honestly, when we're talking about banning of things. But yes, no,
no, but that was Dolores Umbridge, girl. Like I'm talking about Dumbledore.
Yeah. No.
but yeah, no, but it's something that, like school administration, like, hey, they haven't really done anything about the moving stairs. So it's basically like every man out there for themselves. Um, Password protected common rooms. Like what
Right.
happens if you have a faulty memory like Neville, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
like the choices are there. Anyway, also episode 621, surveillance, because I'm always very interested in the politics of surveillance in the series.
Mm-hmm.
Like who gets to see what and how.
Mm-hmm.
And also Harry surveilling Draco gives me a kick every time. And the honorable mention, the patriarchy, episode 625. I don't think I need to explain myself a lot on that.
Yeah, I thought about doing that one, but yeah, that one almost made my honorable mention. It didn't though. Mine are different. I have the first one I have is Espionage from episode 602. It's very similar to your surveillance in the fact that, like, I mean, we see Draco and Harry spying on Draco the whole book, and we see I think that it's mainly the Harry Draco situation, and then also Snape being a spy, a double agent the whole book, and not being able to like guess what side he's on, and knowing that like he's spying for Dumbledore, and then maybe he's spying for Voldemort, and just Draco spying for the Death Eaters as well, and low key fixing the room of requirements vanishing cabinet to make sure they can get in at the end of the book. So just lots of espionage going on. And then morality in 623, episode 623. I chose morality because, like, there's so many characters struggling with their morality in this book, just like mainly Draco. Like, the main theme of
Mm-hmm,
the book
mm-hmm.
is Draco trying, kind of struggling with his morality, struggling to figure out what side he really should be on, and just like knowing that what he's doing is wrong and not really wanting to do it, but like having to do it. And then just in general, Dumbledore is just such a morally gray character all the time, and it's just so very obvious and, like, I feel like enhanced in this book. Um just as we're learning more and more about like what Dumbledore's done and what his intentions are and all of that. And then the last one I picked was Morning, from a pretty recent episode 629, the one right after Dumbledore's death. Just because, as we said in that episode, like, the series really is all about loss and grief and mourning, and we see it ever since book 4 when Cedric died. We've seen just Harry going through so much grief and mourning, and I feel like we kind of saw, like, the way that he mourns Dumbledore in this book. It's just a huge growth from the first death that he experienced and had to go through the mourning process. So it was just a large part of the book. And then my honorable mention went to ulterior motives, kind of in like your public relations a little bit, because, like, it's people in power doing things with ulterior motives and not being like super upfront with like why they're doing the things they're doing. Mainly like Rufus Scrimgeour, in his little political tactics of trying to get Harry on his side. Um, and obviously Dumbledore always has ulterior motives. So I thought those 4, but really the main 3 that I picked really encompassed Half-Blood Prince for me.
Oh, I really like that. I like that we chose completely different ones.
Yeah, me too.
All right, so let's dive into an in-depth discussion of Half-Blood Prince, and also a little bit of a look back at our latest season. What do we have first, Helene?
So the first thing we're going to talk about is what the most impactful moments of the book were for us this time around versus the first time we read the book. So Adri, what were the most impactful moments this time versus the first time
Okay,
for you?
so the first time I read it, obviously I was obsessed with like, who is the Half-Blood Prince? Who is this person? When can we meet them? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I am a little concerned, but also mystified, and also like drawn by like this person who's giving like Harry instructions, and also really questionable spells.
Right.
So this time, because I already knew like the plot, right?
Mhm.
I was most surprised by the transphobia present in the whole polyjuice potion element of Crab and Goyle, and how like they were transforming themselves into girls to avoid suspicion of their nefarious tactics. And then we've never seen Harry and Hermione and Ron like cross use polyjuice potion until like next book, really. So like the idea of like only bad guys do this, or like maybe the good guys do it in a pinch.
Do they cross use it in the next book?
Ron, well, Hermione does because she needs to turn into Harry.
Oh, right, right. In the very first chapter. I'm thinking like when they snuck into the Ministry of Magic, or
No, no,
even
no.
like when they sneak into the Gringotts. I was like, oh, no, they don't. Wow, they use Polyjuice Potion a lot in the next book. Anyway, we're not there yet. I
We're
just
not there
realized.
yet.
I just realized it
But
though.
it's like it's for a good reason, you guys, and it's like
Yeah,
never
yeah.
really discussed again.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to talk about in the Seven Potters chapter, especially because like Fleur, yeah, I'm
Yeah.
interested to get to that. Anyway, um, yeah, that's a good point. I actually had forgotten about the whole like not knowing who the Half-Blood Prince was the first time I read the book.
S-
um,
Helene, you obviously knew because you're very clever. I
oh,
did not.
oh, I didn't. I did not know. I think I thought it was like James. I can't remember who I thought it was. I definitely thought it was like someone we knew though. But yeah, no, this time, okay, so the first time I read it, and I think I touched on this when we first started reading this book on the pod, but the first time I read it, I was really, really impacted by like the Ginny Harry relationship, and that, that kind of hitting me for the first time, not realizing that like I wanted it until they gave it to me, kind of thing. Like when it happened, I had never thought about it before, and I was like, wait, this makes so much sense.
Yeah,
Um,
for you, it's like, did I find my OTP? Like, oh yes.
Yeah, like it was so unexpected, but then like immediately after it happened, I was like, wait, this like is absolutely perfect. I would have like not have ever thought about this, but it's great. So yeah, I remember that really, really impacting me the first time I read it. But this time around, I think the moments, I couldn't think of like one specific moment, but the moments that really impacted me more this time were like the ones where we got to see Dumbledore, like, and his like actual like real feelings shining through, because he's so like guarded and protected, and he doesn't really like, you don't get to really know Dumbledore very well throughout the book. But there are like just these moments where his love and care for Harry really shines through, and just like the person that he truly is, like Harry gets glimpses of it. Um, and those parts really just stuck out to me this time.
One of the things that I think is so cool about our show, maybe
Hmm.
just, I mean, just saying, just patting ourselves on the back, is is our listeners, because they have like the best answers to our questions.
Right? I agree.
So really, it's mostly patting our listeners on the back and saying, like, without you, what would we be? Just people just screaming into the void. Um, so we wanted to look back at like our questions that some of the questions we asked this season, and pick one memorable question and then one memorable answer for each of us. So Helene, what was yours?
Yeah, I went through all the episodes just to remind myself what the questions were, and this one definitely stood out to me. So the question was, why do you think the Imperious Curse is illegal and love potions are not?
I love that question.
Yeah, and this I just remember when I read this answer from Decatur Wine Poet on Instagram, I was like shook. I was like, I had not thought about that at all, and it's such a good point. So I had to share it here. So their answer was, love potions are made with ingredients bought at a store. There is a financial incentive to keep those stores and the suppliers in business. This is the lobbying power of big apothecary and probably Hallmark cards too.
I mean, yes.
I mean, the idea of big apothecary, amazing. I had never thought about how like love potions are like basically there for capitalism. Hadn't thought about that. But it makes so much sense.
Do we have like a analog in our world of like something that's made with ingredients bought at a store and is not really good for you, but capitalism?
I mean, alcohol? Question mark?
Yeah, like why is that like legal and why is like I don't know, something like weed not federally legal when it's been shown it's less
Yeah,
dangerous?
because like I mean, you think about it. There's a millions and millions of distilleries and breweries and vineyards and everything out there that make their money off of this. Like, there's businesses that would not thrive, and so much money is to be made off of alcohol. So
Yeah, no, that's a great
maybe,
point.
I don't know. But of course, alcohol doesn't take away. I mean, in a sense, it can take away
Oh no, no,
consent.
I wasn't even thinking about
Yeah,
consent. I was just thinking about like in general, is there something you make at home that's not like good for you,
right.
but
I
like
mean, junk food
there's like
too.
financial incentive to keep it going?
Does
And
junk
I
food
think,
count?
well, let's go with alcohol because I don't want to think about
Like
that.
Cheetos? I don't know. No, I feel you.
Like let's keep it with alcohol because I feel very uncomfortable saying junk food is bad for you,
I mean,
even though it's in the name.
it's like 90% of my diet. So,
Oh, yeah.
but yeah, I just thank you, Decatur Wine Poet, for that amazing answer. That just kind of, it was like mind blowing when I read it then. So I love it. Thank you. That was
It was transcendent. Like,
right. Yeah. So that was my choice. What about you?
well, one of my favorite questions is the following: how would you have reacted to Dumbledore's trauma when feeding him the potion?
Mm-hmm.
Because honestly, reading that back
Yeah.
was the hardest thing about this season.
And I wasn't even on that episode with you.
I know, very sad. But it was like the hardest thing about I never thought it was going to be like so emotionally challenging
Yeah.
to do this season, but that episode, that chapter
Yeah.
really got to me. So, um Rock Climbing Girl 23 on Instagram said, I would have started to cry. Reading it and watching it made me almost start crying. And it just like it felt like I was like, I'm not alone. Like
Yeah.
this is something that evoked deep discomfort within me,
Right.
for a variety of reasons, right? Even though it was Dumbledore's request, um, of like, how do you inflict pain and suffering to someone you love,
Right.
even if it's for the greater good,
Yeah.
quote unquote, and you don't know and they don't know if it's going to work or not. It's just a lot.
Yeah. And even
So,
though none of us picked one from this listener, I want to give a shout out in this section to our wonderful listener, Jeff, because he
oh,
gave such
always on
great,
the ball.
yeah, such
Always on the ball.
great and thoughtful um, responses to almost every single question of the week that we put out there. And like, it's always fun to hear from him. So thank you, Jeff, and keep doing what you're doing for season 7 because,
Because we need you.
yes,
We need all our listeners, honestly.
of course, yes.
All right. Yeah, and also like probably like my question choice was more selfish because I was like, I really had a hard time with this and I needed someone to understand me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, being understood is important. It's a human thing, so I get you. Well, on to the next question here. So, Adri, which character's actions surprised you the most in this book when you read it this time versus when you read it the first time?
Okay, so the first read, it was Dumbledore for showing Harry more than he had ever done before. Like he was more hands on his whole like
Mm-hmm.
quest. And I was like, oh my God, finally, Dumbledore and Harry doing the thing, you know? Not really understanding that narratively that meant Dumbledore was probably gonna die, you know, in the
Mm-hmm.
hero's journey.
Right, right.
Because I was such an innocent back then.
Yeah.
But for the pod, it's gonna sound stupid, but like Hermione's whole sending the birds to attack Ron
No, that's
thing,
fair. That's fair.
I was like, Hermione, how dare you?
Yeah, I mean, it's like last book with Hagrid when with Grop and like, you know, realizing how shitty it was that Hagrid like took Grop in the last book. Like
Yeah.
when there's something that a character that you love does something that you realize like, "Oh, I'm not okay with this and I never realized it before." Like that's going to make an impact.
Yeah, I was like, Hermione, how dare you? Like, it's not that I didn't know it happened. It was just like more of
Yeah.
like, oh, this is really out of character the more we like dive deep into this and
Yeah.
are like,
Well,
oh,
well, that's the thing about this podcast is like that we get to read the books from an adult perspective. Like when you're reading it for entertainment, and you know you're not thinking about these things in depth. It's like, oh yeah, you know, haha, fictional character in a book that's not real, like sent, you know, and attacked her friend or whatever. Haha, I don't know, I don't know if you laughed, but but like when you're reading it with like this lens that we put on it, it's like, oh shit, like that ain't cool.
this, especially if we think about like, what if the genders had been reversed? Like,
Right.
would we have been okay with this? And definitely not, right?
Right.
So, like,
Yeah.
why are we more okay with this? Even though, like, yeah, Ron is a dummy, but like, you know,
Right.
does he deserve have to have birds? Like, you know, and it was like sharp and stuff. It wasn't even.
Yeah, like their beaks and their
This
talons
was
and
not
stuff. Yeah.
even an open-handed slap. I'm just saying.
Yeah, it was worse than the slap. Yeah, I would
Than
say.
this slap.
For me, the character's actions that surprised me the most when I read the book the first time was Snape, which I mean I thought was just such a obvious answer because you're like, holy shit, he kills Dumbledore, he's a bad guy. Like you finally like get a quote unquote answer to the question that we've been asking ourselves the whole series, even though the answer is not right. He isn't
I think you
actually
get
evil.
licensed to hate Snape
Right.
finally.
I was like, "Oh my god, Snape killed Dumbledore? What?" You know, like that was probably the thing that surprised me the most when I first read it. But knowing that this time, obviously, I wasn't as surprised by Snape's actions, but I was actually more surprised this time by Draco because, like, I think reading it this time around really made me like sit down and think about not only like the actions that he had to take in terms of like attempting to like murder Dumbledore and therefore almost accidentally killing like his classmates. Like it made me really have to sit down and think about that. But I actually like had to sit. I actually thought about the fact that like, how is this going to affect him when he's older? How would this have affected him if he had accidentally killed someone in the process and like murdered a classmate of his on accident? Like, what if Katie hadn't survived the necklace, or like, what if Ron hadn't been given the antidote for the poison, right? And like in a timely enough fashion, right? Like, what if he had been responsible for one of his classmates' deaths? So, it's those actions that Draco took really surprised me a lot more in this read because you know, it kind of hit me different.
What if he had like? What if Slughorn had like drank the thing by himself and just died?
Yeah, I mean that would have. I mean, for all we know, I guess Draco doesn't really. I don't think he likes Slughorn, but he doesn't dislike Slughorn. You know, like it's his head of house, right? Well, I know Snape still's head of house, but like,
Well, but it's still a teacher
yeah,
at his school. So
right,
someone, you know,
yeah,
like we know he feels like a little bit iffy about killing Dumbledore anyway. Like, and it's not like he loves Dumbledore. It's just a person in a position of power at his school.
yeah. I mean, it really would have messed Draco up if someone had died because of him. You know that wasn't his intended target, or even if he had killed Dumbledore, like that would have really messed him up.
Well, and also, you know, he can justify I was trying to do it for my family, right? Or like the child soldier politic that we talked about when we're talking about Draco, but that still doesn't mean that it wouldn't haunt him eventually.
Yeah, I don't think he would have been able to justify it enough to make it okay in his mind.
Well, as you mentioned earlier, Helene,
Mhm.
we're reading this book. We're rereading as adults, or semi-adults in my case,
You're
and we're
older than
reading.
me.
Adulthood doesn't start at an age; it's a state of mind.
Okay.
I am a teen mom. Okay,
Okay. Tell
that's
yourself
how I
that.
feel.
You tell yourself that. It's fine.
Honestly, at the age of 35, I'm like, am I ready to have a baby? I was telling Seth the other day, who okayed this? Like, I haven't even flossed my teeth every day of the pandemic. Who okayed me having a baby?
Who flosses every day?
Adults, I assume? I don't know, man.
I don't even think dentists floss every day.
I assume that people are not like me, that they're perfect.
You're wrong. Go on.
Okay. You're wrong, go on. Okay. So how has reading the book through a political lens changed how you look at the events of HalfBlood Prince?
Well, this book has always been really political just in its nature, so I don't think it changed its like a ton for me, but
Okay.
it did make me kind of think about like I don't know, I couldn't think of another way to phrase this, but the quote unquote dark side, like the Death Eaters and Voldemort, like the bad people. It made me think about like what their motives and actions are, like their motives for their actions,
Okay.
and how those are a little bit more politically charged than I really had realized beforehand. So yeah, the book itself didn't really change much, but I guess more of like what was that episode we were talking about? Oh, it was like assassination, the assassinator, right? It was that episode where it was like thinking about about the Death Eaters killing Dumbledore as like they're assassinating him for political reasons. Like I had not thought about that before.
Yeah, like having the power of murdering or assassinating
Yes.
a public figure
Right.
as a symbol and not just a person,
Yeah,
and
cuz
what that
like
can do to a movement.
yeah, like when you're reading this book when it's like not for political analysis or whatever and Dumbledore dies, it's like, oh, it's the death of a beloved character
Correct.
who like we care about a lot and it's really painful because of that reason. But you don't really think about it as like, oh, Dumbledore was like a political leader. Like he was like a
He was an activist.
yeah, he was like a symbol for the resistance, you know? Like he was like his death really meant something politically and it really made a lot of changes in the political climate of what's happening in the wizarding world at the moment and like his death was really political and I had not thought about that before. So,
And so the symbolic meaning of that, like, they went ahead and murdered or assassinated a the political figure of a movement or an activist, right? And
right.
how that could have been like the end of it if the
Mhm.
Order of the Phoenix hadn't just continued on, or hadn't been ready to continue on without its most prominent member
It's
slash
kind of like
founder.
and I don't know how comfortable I am making this comparison,
Are
but
you gonna say Martin Luther King Jr.?
yeah, I was.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say like because he was the leader of the civil rights movement in the '60s, and like he was a very big political symbol for like this very important movement, and he was killed. He was like
But
he was
it was
assassinated.
so it's also like talking about grief in two very different ways, like the
Hmm.
grief of the loss of your political like icon leader, right? And
Right.
there's also the private grief of
Mhm.
those who knew him as more than just that, who knew him as
Yeah,
a
like
father,
when the
as a person, as a friend.
yeah, like when the country mourned the death of John F. Kennedy
Uh-huh.
versus like Jackie O, you know, mourning the
Correct.
death
So
of Kennedy. So like yeah, I mean like the collective grief that everyone in the country felt when he was assassinated versus the intimate family members. Like we get to see the people who are closest to Dumbledore more in his death. And I feel like we less see I don't even know if we really see it at all, the like collective wizarding world. I mean, I guess in this last chapter, the White Tomb, a little bit.
Yeah, but we see the aftermath in the next book.
Right. Like, we don't really get a sense of like how all the people who believed in Dumbledore's movement in the Order of the Phoenix, and saw him as like this inspirational political symbol, we don't really get to see them more in like kind of from that political viewpoint.
Yeah. Well, for me, it made me more interested in the propaganda machine in the Ministry of Magic,
Mm,
which, like, it's kind of the same as you being interested in more of like the actions of the Death Eaters, because like
yeah.
both of them are like not inherently good.
Right.
One of them is obviously the bad guy, but like the Ministry is also not the good guy.
Hmm.
But it also made me kind of like super wary of the narrator's voice. Like as I'm reading Half Blood Prince again, right? I'm like, ooh, this narrator is like,
You mean Harry?
no, because the Harry's not the narrator. It's like it's narrated from like a third person point of view, like omniscient point of view, but only in Harry's mind. Like it's centered on Harry, but Harry is not the narrator.
Right. Yeah.
Like the
Yeah.
yeah, because
It's
if
Harry's perspective, but he's not the one actually like saying the words.
telling it,
Yeah.
he's yeah. So it's like, you know, for me, I'm like, oh, this narrator colors things a little bit in a way that I'm not comfortable with.
Okay.
Um, and how just kind of like the whole like
Mhm.
and we'll get into this more in like Dementors and chocolate, but like how there's like some fat phobia and some stuff that the narrator centers themselves around, like centers the narrative around, when there
Mhm.
are other things that are probably happening that probably deserved that more page time.
Okay. Yeah. I could see that.
Just maybe I'm like made me think like, oh, unreliable narrator, you know?
Okay. All right. Yeah. That didn't really hit for me, but I'm it's interesting that it did for you.
Yeah, just well, it's one of those things that I've been struggling with since started the reread of the entire series, right? But like this, it really hit me, this book.
That's fair. Yeah, totally. Especially when you like start to learn things about, the author that you didn't know before.
Yeah, and maybe that's also part of it.
Yeah. So, Adri, what political threads did you see in this book specifically that come up later and in the next book?
All right, so and also other books, right? So
Well, I mean,
but
later.
I'm gonna say later books, but also like I want to say mine also have like a little bit of a
Okay.
throwback
I was going
vibe
to
to
say,
them.
like, when we say later books, it's really only one book. But yes, if we want to say all books, then you can go back in time.
Fine. Let me center on the one book that we got left.
Okay.
So Harry continues to carry like a ton of grief, and this, especially in the next book, is combined with transformation of his character into the person that he needs to be to carry out
Hmm.
the orders.
Yeah.
So like that is also the politics of loyalty. So like grief transforms Harry in a positive way when he has like a task assigned to him. Like he's very very much task oriented. Like I would think like after he does everything he does in the next book, there's probably like a month where he's just like laying back going like what's next, you know?
Yeah.
Because no one's telling him what to do anymore. And like Voldemort's gone. Like, I
Yeah.
hope he went to therapy, honestly.
Oh, I really hope so. 100%.
But like this moment of like this boy has carried grief throughout the entire series.
Yeah. I mean, mine is very similar. Mine was mourning, and with going along with that, a sense of duty and obligation. So very, very similar to what you said in the terms of like his grief transforms him into like this person who knows that he has to get this done now, and there's no one left to help him, like other than Ron and Hermione. He has no more mentors left. But in general, there's just a lot of death and unbearably difficult tasks that Harry has to do, and he has to be the only one to do them in his future.
Yeah, it's he sometimes the hero must go on alone, but even sometimes when he thinks he must go on alone, his support system is essential to his well-being.
Right. Yeah.
All right. We should move on to our book-wide Dementors and chocolate.
Yes.
Helene, what was your book-wide Dementor?
Both my Dementor and my chocolate are people, mainly. But my Dementor is Snape. 100% Snape. Every single chapter that featured Snape just like made my body just like fill with this utter hatred, the fiery passion of hatred. Like that, remember that chapter at the very beginning? I think it was Snape Victorious, when he's like walking Harry back from the train into the feast, and he's like making fun of Tonks, and he's like
Oh no, well,
gloating and
it wasn't this first chapter. It was one of the first chapters. The first chapter
oh no,
is when
I didn't say
we did
first.
the Umbridge.
No, I didn't say it was the first chapter. I said early on in the book. Yeah, it's definitely not the
Sorry.
first chapter. It's like chapter 6 or something, like 7 or 8. It's
Yeah,
late.
sorry.
But no, it's one of those earlier chapters with Snape, where he is walking Harry back from the train after like Draco puts the Petrificus Totalis curse on him and breaks his nose and all that shit. And he's just like, that whole chapter, like that was probably my least favorite chapter in the whole book. Like I hated that chapter because Snape is such a fucking asshole. And I just really, I'm sorry for those Snape lovers out there. I don't know if any are even still around. If any of them still listen to this podcast, I'm sorry, but I do not understand you. Like I cannot, I cannot understand how anyone can read these books, especially this book, and have any net positive feelings for Snape. Like, I get having sympathy. I get, like, feeling bad for how he grew up and, like, you know, how sad he is and all that. I get that. But, like, he's a bad person. I don't know how else to say it. He's a bad person. He's not a good guy.
And as you know, I agree, so I'm not even here to counterpoint that.
Yeah, that was my Dementor the whole book. Anytime that Snape showed up or did anything, I was like, shut the fuck up and leave. I don't want to hear from you.
This is similar to Order, where anytime Umbridge would show up, we'd be like, Dementor, Dementor, Dementor.
That's true. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think Umbridge was probably a bit worse in Order than Snape was in this book, but I just have a hatred for Snape throughout all the books anyway, so it's whatever.
I think it's because Snape like has a like full 7-book arc that we're just like, you could have done way better as like character development, and you didn't. So I'm disappointed in you and your actions.
Right. So what about
for
you?
me, the Dementor was, as I spoke about earlier, the narrator's sexism, transphobia, and fat phobia that really just irked me. As a whole, just too much for me.
Yeah, I feel like that's not really specific to this book, though. But yeah.
But there's like the transphobia is really like apparent in this book.
It is, yeah. There were definitely some more
like
instances.
Sure, like Rita Skeeter and like Umbridge as characters in the way that the narrator describes them, for sure transphobia, but like then we see like the actual transformation via polyjuice to like link to like, oh, see, trans women, you know, with this definition, very loose definition that the author makes, right, are just trying to cover up crimes, you know?
Right. Yeah. Yeah, it was bad. I mean, it always is.
It always is.
Never good.
All right, so let's just wash that taste out of our mouths with some chocolate. What was your chocolate?
I think our chocolates are the same, but
they are.
I mean, I'm gonna gush about it for a second because you know me. My chocolate is Ginny and Harry's relationship. I mean, it was just as impactful for me this time as it was the first time I read the book. I just love them, and Ginny, honestly, just Ginny as a person, like as a whole, like she's her intelligence, her wit, her strength of will, her confidence, her just overall badassery, and I just love how she and Harry just so deeply understand each other and respect each other and love each other. I just love it.
Well, I only have one more thing to say. Like, as our queen Riri would say, they found love in a hopeless place. So,
Yes. Oh, I just love them. They were a light, a shining light in this book for me.
also a shining light, our patrons.
Yes. Of course.
Well, this is the part where I say the thing I always say: our patrons keep this show going. If you want to join a super exclusive club that helps keep the show going, also get sweet, sweet rewards, go to patreon.com/occupolitics.
Yeah, $2 a month is gonna get you access to bonus content for every episode, and $5 and $10 a month tiers will get you physical rewards every 3 months, like a subscription box.
All right. And this week we're going to have memorable Half-Blood Prince quotes and why we chose them.
Yes. Every week we ask a question, as we talked about earlier. And this week we did ask, if you could choose one politic for the whole book, what would it be? Unfortunately, people just weren't in the answering mood. Maybe this question was a bit too vague. If you decide after this episode comes out that you would retroactively like to reach out and tell us what you thought your politic for the whole book would be, please let us know. But we only got 2 answers this week. One was from Rex and friend of the pod. He said espionage because of Harry and Draco and the Death Eaters. So pretty similar to what I said at the top of the episode. And then Hannah_Flana on Instagram said leadership. Harry as a leader at Quidditch, Dumbledore leading Harry, Draco taking on new leadership, and Snape resenting his leadership role. I liked that one.
All right. I like that one too.
Yeah.
Well, y'all know what we have picked. Top 3 and also our bonus one.
Well, I guess because we picked 3, so I guess if you had to pick one, what would your one be?
If I had to pick just one, I would pick surveillance because
that's a good one.
That is that's my little heart's desire to always be like, who is surveilling who and how? What do they know?
Right. I think I'd pick morality.
Oh, I like that.
Just because, it's such a theme of not only this book, but the series. Morality is like a big deal, especially like Voldemort, good versus evil, all that stuff.
All right. I like it.
Do you want to let the listeners know what the question for this week is going to be? We probably won't be reading these until we come back from our break for season 7. But
I know. So you have a lot of time to answer.
Yeah, you can think on this for weeks if you wanted to.
All right. So this week, the question is, what was your chocolate and Dementor for Half-Blood Prince as a whole? Like, you've got so many options here. We had so many options, and I was like, I don't know what to do about this.
Yeah, I mean, we asked this question at the end of season 5, at the end of book 5, and we got some great answers to open up book 6 with. And I just hope you guys, enjoy giving us those thoughts this time.
All right, let's enter our cool down phase, Helene.
Yes,
because we got to. Tell me what media you've been consuming lately that is not Harry Potter related.
Well, I watched all of Bridgerton season 2 this weekend.
No spoilers, please. I downloaded all of it
no spoilers. Binge. I will just give my overall thoughts. No spoilers. You haven't read the books though, because that's surprising to me that you haven't read the books.
Oh no, I've read all the books, girl.
Okay, so you know what happens. I mean, I know that there have been changes. I haven't read the books. I actually kind of think I'm going to start now. Although the next book is about Benedict, and he is not my favorite Bridgerton.
Friend.
Is it a good book though?
It is a fantastic book.
Okay, then I'll read it. I guess I didn't really think I was gonna like Anthony when I saw this season, but I did end up really liking Anthony in this season. So maybe
this is exactly what happens in every book, though.
Okay, good to know. Yeah. So overall thoughts. I mean, I did look at a summary of like the differences between season 2 and like the book, and so I know like some of the things that are different. But But yeah, overall thoughts are I think season 1 overall was better. There were just some parts that like didn't exactly hit for me as much in season 2, but I I did thoroughly enjoy season 2. I did really like Anthony, or as they called him, Antony, and it just made me think of Queer Eye every time they said it.
Which is funny because both of them are gay in real life.
Oh, really? I didn't know that about that actor. No, he's great.
Yeah. I have a friend who's mourning that.
I might have to too, because like he was like, I honestly didn't think that the season would have like would be as enjoyable because Rajesh Page wasn't in it, and like I was like, oh no, like he was the best eye candy last season, but no, the guy who plays Anthony is beautiful, and I was like, I love you, and I could stare at you all day. So he was more than enough eye candy for the season. So
it'd be like that. It'd be like that in the books too, you know?
oh yeah.
Because then you get so attached in each book to the couple, you know?
I
Especially, you know, like whatever. So then you're kind of like, oh, it's kind of sad this book ended. And now I'm going to have to like
yeah.
read the next, which is like not about this couple. And like, I don't know.
Yeah.
And then you get into it. And then you're like, oh shit, this is pretty good.
Yeah, they were good at doing that, because I honestly did not think I was going to be as interested in this couple's story, because I was like, I care more about Daphne and the Duke. Like, I want to hear about that. But no, I mean, it was good. I'm sure you already know this because you read the books, but like there is significantly less sex in this season, as opposed to like last season where there was like a whole episode of just soft porn.
Just like banging through the castle.
Literally, like, I think it was like episode 5. Like literally, they just had sex the whole time, and it was like getting to episode 5 in season 2. I was like, are they gonna have an episode 5 where like they finally just like have sex and do it fucking millions of times? And no, they didn't have that. Spoiler alert: they don't have that episode.
Yeah, it's it varies from book to book.
Yeah,
I will say that.
Well, either way, it was very enjoyable. Watch Bridgerton if you haven't seen it yet. It's great, and I'm gonna try and go find like a box set of all the books and read all the books.
Okay, well, I wish you much what is it? I wish you much success in that journey. Not sure if they're all sold out or they came out with like a Netflix one.
They did for the first 2 books.
But yeah, but like
I don't know if I want to start on book 3, or because I want to know like what happens next, or if I should just go back and read books 1 and 2, even though I know what happens. And
they're quite different in the series. I mean,
yeah,
the context is different from the series. The series obviously has more racial integration. The books are really white.
yeah,
and it doesn't have like the racial politics in it. So read them as their own, you know, text, obviously.
Yeah. I'm just wondering, because I am going to read the first 2 books no matter what. I'm just wondering if I start from the beginning or if I just start in the 3rd book, because that's like the one I don't know the story for yet. What do you suggest?
Yeah. All right. So I would be that person who's like, just start at 3. It's fine.
Start at 3? Okay. I'll go back and read 1 and 2. I will.
After you're done with the rest of them.
Yeah,
Yes.
I will. I'll do it.
Well, and the thing is, like, you don't know until quite late in the series, I think it's book 4, who Lady Whistledown is.
Oh, that's different from the show, for sure. Yeah.
That's super different from the show.
Oh. Ooh. Interesting.
So that twist comes like halfway through the series.
I thought they were gonna have their work cut out for them, having like that mystery not be there anymore, because that was like a huge pull of the first season, was like guessing who Lady Whistledown was. But no, I think they did a good job with that.
Yep.
So,
all right. So yes, start at book 3. Also, I think it's book 4, the one with
Colin,
Lady Whistledown and Colin.
I'm guessing Colin is the main person for 3.
Yeah, it's my favorite.
I like Colin, although he was kind of an asshole at the end of season 2. But we'll see what happens. I don't know.
Oh, they're all assholes, and then they get redeemed in their own like books. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yep.
So it is what it is. This is how it works in romance anyway.
Okay, well, what about you? What did you watch this week?
So, because I couldn't watch Bridgerton season 2, not because I can't watch it, but because I have downloaded all the episodes onto my phone just in case the hospital does not have reliable Wi-Fi so that I can like just watch parts of Bridgerton while I'm waiting for the labor to be induced and all that good stuff. I need something to, occupy my mind
Of
as I am
course.
waiting for things to happen.
Of course.
Um, and then the rest of it, I guess I'll make a playlist on Spotify that's just like salt and peppers, push it,
Yeah.
Um,
Push it real good.
just, just like on a loop. Um,
Amazing.
so I've been watching Criminal Minds on Netflix because
Rewatching?
I never really finished the last season.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, I'll watch the last season, I guess. I haven't quite finished it yet, but I also started Law and Order, the original one, season 21 with Hugh Dancy
Okay.
and Chef's Kiss. Like
Good.
Hugh Dancy is everything I want him to be on that.
I have not seen the original Law and Order any season.
Oh, it has Sam Waterston and he's
I
great,
love Sam Waterston. Yeah, I love him. So maybe I will watch it just for him. He's in
I mean,
the new Hulu show The Dropout. Did you know that?
oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
But
he plays
also,
Charles Schultz. I don't know if you know
oh,
the
great.
story of the anyway.
Yeah, no, I love, well, I am obsessed with her voice,
Elizabeth Holmes, yeah.
Yes, and how she thought that she could get away with it
Yeah.
because she's revolutionizing medicine.
It's
She really
interesting.
believes her bullshit too. Like it's insane.
Oh my gosh. It's so interesting and so intriguing.
How's Amanda Seyfried in it?
She's
Good?
amazing. She's so good.
Okay.
You should
Okay.
watch it.
How is the voice?
So good. Like she does it so good. And it like it evolves throughout, like because like her voice gets deeper as she like gets more
Oh
in.
yeah, no, because like even like her professors were like, no, she did not have that voice in college, girl.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, so you get to like see it evolve and get deeper and deeper, and she does such a good job at like the slow burn. It's so good.
All right. Well, another thing to watch while I'm recovering
Yes.
from birth experience. All right. Another thing, let me say something about this. I got a call today about my healthcare plan estimate for giving birth, and let me tell you, it is a very nice luxury purse, like price tag. And I'm just like, really, guys? This has radicalized me. We need socialized medicine.
More or less than 2,000.
More.
More or less than 5,000.
About.
Damn.
And I was like, that would be a really nice Louis Vuitton, not even like the basic models.
Darn, gonna have to use the money you were saving for your Louis Vuitton.
Well, I mean, I was saving money for this because I knew it was going to be expensive.
Yeah, of course.
Obviously, I'm not like that dumb, but still, I was like a sticker shock of like, oh, I thought I was saving more than I needed. Now it turns out I am saving about the same as I needed. I thought I was like overdoing it by a lot.
Goodness, America, guys. America.
Oh, and this is after I have also spent the amount of a luxury purse on prepaying the OBGYN.
Right. And all the weekly and bi-weekly.
No, I prepaid my labor because the hospital is one fee. That is just to be at the hospital.
Right, the hospital stay. Right.
Yes, that is the most expensive stay I've ever had.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not even a Ritz-Carlton. And then the service of the doctor is separate.
Goodness gracious.
So I'm about to spend collectively, over the amount of time that I've been pregnant, I'm estimating about 10 grand at least.
Yeah, man, that's crazy. That's insane.
thankfully, our student loans have been paused.
Yeah.
I can
Yeah.
afford.
Goodness gracious.
Just, things. Anyway, it was just my diatribe of healthcare is expensive in the United States, and I have insurance.
Mm-hmm.
All right, that's it for today's episode. Please be patient and kind to us. Mostly me, because I'm going to be out for a month or so.
Yes, we're going to give Adri all the time she needs to give birth to little Olivia and, bring her into the world and make sure she's nice and comfy and happy before she gets...
Frederica Georgina, who knows?
Yes.
Because April 1st, babies.
Yeah. So before we force her to come back and entertain y'all some more, we're going to make sure she has time to bond with her child.
And, the dogs and the child,
Right, exactly.
It's gonna be a difficult 4 weeks here at Casa Wilson.
Well, if you've enjoyed this conversation, please take a second to give us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you happen to be listening right now. It helps new listeners find the podcast, and it makes us happy. And I gotta say, guys, get on it, because it's been a good long while since we've had any reviews at all. And it would really, really make my day for me to wake up one morning, check, and see a brand new review, 5-star review on our podcast, because it's been a long time. Every time I check, I get sad because we haven't gotten a new one in a while. So please be that person that makes my day.
Yeah, that's a very wonderful plea for us to get on.
Yeah.
Okay. Until then, politics managed. Support this show by going to patreon.com/Occhiopolitics. Our patrons keep this show going. You can find us online at Occhiopolitics.com, and we are at Occhiopolitics on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. You can email us your thoughts at info@Occhiopolitics.com. Leave us a voicemail at 915-996-1699. And you might just hear yourself on the podcast. Adriana Wilson is the founder and creative director of the podcast. Helene Karp is the producer and social media manager. Allison Pullman is the audio wizard and editor who makes us sound so good. Cover art and physical rewards are designed by Adriana Wilson. The views expressed by the hosts and guests are expressly their own and not representative of their employers or associates. Occhiopolitics is part of the MuggleNet family of podcasts.